Hi everyone, this is Luc-Olivier for Motor Illustrated, and this week I'm gonna have a lot of fun. You may have recognized already the two contenders of this match. On my right, this is the legendary Honda Civic Type R, a model that is very well known in the sports car industry, and the new contender, the Hyundai Elantra N, but not any N. This is the new Canadian exclusivity, the TCR edition. Both of them are performance car, and both of them have pretty big rear wing on their butts. So now let's find out who's the best. The Honda Civic Type R is a true legend in the automotive industry. This is actually the 6th generation of the model, but we only had the two latest generation. This is the FL5 introduced in 2023, and this is a beast. We know that Honda is an engineering company. They have great engineer, and this one is pretty much the pinnacle of the brand at the moment. Engine, transmission, suspension, everything is tuned for performance. This is the kind of car that's even beating German cars. And to know, it's very important to know, this thing actually owned the record for the front-wheel drive, the fastest front-wheel drive car around the Nürburgring in Germany. This is a benchmark, really. It is very easy to recognize a Type R when you compare it with any other Civic on the market. The first thing you'll notice, the front bumper, it is much more sporty. Then the width, it is about 0.6 inch wider than any other Civic on the market, and that's why the Type R looks so bold on the road. Then the hood, made out of aluminum and functional intake. I love it. Moving to the side now, you see the big front wing, wider. The front wheel, 19-inch, you recognize the red Honda logo. That means that's a sports car. Then you've got these side skirts, black, the contrast with the rest of the car. I think it is very interesting. Then again, on the wide side, the rear door is redesigned. Same thing with the rear wing. It is also redesigned. And then this is where the show is. It's in the back. That big rear wing, it stands out against the vehicle. I really like the way Honda made it. It feels like it's floating. It's very interesting. Then moving down, large, big black diffuser, and this is supporting D3 exhaust. And you've got right here in the middle, a larger one, and this is one of the key design signature of that FL5 generation of the Type R. Now let's talk about the contender against the Type R. This is the 2026 Hyundai Elantra N TCR edition, and this is an exclusivity for the Canadian market. What TCR stands for, it's for touring car racing. Basically, it is a race about endurance, and Hyundai have won for 5 consecutive years in Germany the 24 Hours of Nürburgring in their own segment with a vehicle that looks a lot like this one, except the racing version is a lot more sportier with wider track and things like that. But this one, basically, this is an homage to it. Something very important also to know, the guy behind the N division at Hyundai comes from BMW with their M division, which is the sport and high performance division. It's Albert Biermann, and he's been working with them for 31 years before moving to Hyundai. So it took the guy basically 31 years to go from M to N in the alphabets. But something is sure, this car is very promising with that guy behind it. You need to know also about the price. The N version, the standard version, starts below $45,000, but if you're opting for the TCR edition, which is again a Canadian exclusivity, you won't find it on the Canadian website. You have to go into a dealership because it is limited production, and the price slightly before $50,000. The Elantra N have been introduced in 2021 as a 2022 model, so they haven't changed a lot, but there are two things that makes the TCR highly recognizable as soon as you see it, and I'll get to it very quickly. But first thing first, you would notice that the N version of the Elantra, it is much more sportier than any other version of the Elantra. It starts obviously with that big black front bumper. I think the car was designed to have these accents compared to the standard standard Elantra, which looks pretty blank to me. But this has a lot of character. Something that is very interesting, you've got that red line that goes all around the vehicle as the aero kit. I think it adds a lot of personality to vehicle. Something else that is interesting, you've got only 4 colors, including that performance blue, which is quite spicy to me. One of the main characteristics about that TCR edition are these 19-inch forged alloy wheels that are unique to this model. Moving to the back now, you got that huge sticker, and I highly suggest you not to take it. It's a little bit too much over the top to my taste. And if you move to the back, this is where the main feature is, that humongous rear gooseneck wing. It's partly made out of carbon fiber. Well, basically the most of it is made out of carbon fiber. It is adjustable. That's a characteristic that is kind of cool, but I'll let you decide if it's too big or not. And then if you look below, you've got 2 exhaust pipes and that rear diffuser. That completes pretty much what is a TCR. Obviously, you're sitting low in a Type R, and that's exactly what you're looking for. When you're sitting in it, you realize that the seats are very comfortable. They're covered with suede fabric, so it's very grippy. You're not moving at all, and then you've got these supports for the back and the hips, very tight, but it's not uncomfortable. You really feel that you're doing one with the vehicle, and that's the kind of thing you're looking for with that kind of vehicle. The steering wheel, honestly, it's a little bit boring. I think Honda could have bring maybe some aluminum trim, some accent. You still have that red Honda logo, but it's still a little bit boring. Nice stitching. I think it adds some color to it. Cluster, that's a disappointment also, only 10.2 inches. It's a little bit boring, but when you activate the Plus R mode, it completely changed. It's unique to this version, so you got that feeling that it's a little bit special, but otherwise it's pretty boring. Moving to the center console now, you've got that small 9-inch screen. Honestly, that's a disappointment. The other car in that segment, most of them, they have larger screen that look more advanced. It is ergonomical because you've got color that attract the eyes, so you don't have to really leave your eyes off the road, but it could be more engaging. That's the least I can say. But you recognize the spirit of Honda that is very clinical. Aluminum accent in the center console, I think it's interesting. Talking about aluminum, the shifter, it is made out of aluminum, very small. Honestly, it's too slippery for my taste. I would have loved something that is bigger, but I like the fact that when you touch it, it's cold, so it adds some prestance to the vehicle. I think it's interesting. Something else that is very cool, you've got the serial number on a plate in front of the passenger, so I think it's very cool because you know exactly which number your car is. Something else that I think is interesting, the red color inside the vehicle. The front seats are red, in the back they're still black, but you've got that red carpet. It adds a lot of color inside of the vehicle, and it gives a lot of character to it. And because it's a family car, you can sit 4 people in it with a decent comfort, but also you've got a big boot. It goes close to 700 liters, and if you fold down the back seat, it goes slightly above 1200 liters, which is very good. Just like in the Type R, when you sit in the TCR, you're sitting low. The fact is, these seats are 10 millimeter lower in the end than any other versions of the Elantra. We've got seats that are very comfortable, a little less than those in the Honda. You've got to notice that, and it's the support for the back is good, but for the hips, it's a little too narrow to my taste. You got to consider that. What are the difference now with the TCR version compared to any other end? You've got that 12 o'clock mark on the steering wheel. When you're doing racing, that's the kind of thing you need to have because you know where the steering is in position. Otherwise, you've got these 2 blue buttons that engage the N mode, which is very cool. And if you want to have the synchro wave match for the transmission, you need to activate the red button here. Otherwise, the seat belts are blue in front. That's cute. You got a light also in the seat that enlight at night the N, that's cute, but pretty useless. In terms of technology now, not much, honestly. That's a little bit disappointing. We know Hyundai kept the weight low, so there's not much electronic inside, but you've got a 10.25-inch screen as the cluster. Same for the multimedia system, and you've got these two designs. When you put the N mode, the cluster changed for something that is completely different, much more engaging. Same thing with the cluster. Few accents of Alcantara. I like that on the seat, on the shifter, same on the steering and on the doors. That's interesting, but there's a lot of plastics all over the vehicle, especially that handle here. It feels a little bit cheap to my taste, but in terms of the ergonomic, it's good for this vehicle. You need to know there's a good advantage for the Elantra in terms of the back seat. There are 3 seat belts, a lot more room, but it's a standard sedan, so the trunk gives you only 402 liters in the trunk, and obviously because there are crossbars in the back, you can fold down the seats. In terms of engine, we only have one option. It is a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, and it comes with the VTEC technology. Obviously, it developed 315 horsepower at 6,500 RPM and 310 pound-feet of torque between 2,600 and 4,000 RPM. It comes only with one transmission. It's obviously a 6-speed manual transmission, and it comes with synchro rev match. Under the hood of the TCR edition, you got the exact same engine as any other N version. This is a 4-cylinder, 2-liter turbo compressed that developed 276 horsepower between 5,500 to 6,000 RPM. It develops also 286 pound-feet of torque between 2,100 to 4,700 RPMs. This is when you opt for the 6-speed manual transmission, and that comes with a synchro rev match. This is very cool. If you go with the DCT, the 8-speed automatic dual clutch, you can use the grid mode that will take you to up to 286 horsepower. Sadly, there's no increase in terms of power output with the TCR, and I wish Hyundai would have given it a little bit more edge just to make it a little bit more different. So now I am doing exactly what this car is made to be. It's being driven. And honestly, if you're the kind of people who's unhappy to drive from A to B, that is sad to drive, that doesn't like to drive, this is definitely not the car for you. This thing is just pure joy. It brings happiness to your daily driving, 100% sure. It is so joyful to drive because you've got a lot of power, and you can play with the transmission because you know you can only have a 6-speed transmission with this thing, so you can play with it. And what a joy, again, very mechanical feeling, and it's so soft. You can touch it just by the fingertips and it's gonna answer perfectly. Same thing with the clutch, really easy to feel. Really, again, an engineer company Honda really masters it. Second, the direction. Now, the steering is so precise. It's almost you're in a surgery table and they know exactly what you're doing. And it's even better when you put the R mode, the plus R mode, which awakes absolutely every single part of the car. The pedal, the steering, the suspension, and the suspension, if you want to play hard on the track, you got to use the plus R mode because the car is absolutely stable. It doesn't move. You can corner with this thing very easily, and you even have a mechanical limited slip differential. And the reason why it's mechanical, because it's more tight, it's more precise than those electronics one. So by being mechanical, it's so sharp that it really makes the car even better to drive. To that, you can add the AHA, which is a system that slightly brakes the inner wheel when you're cornering, so the outside is right in front of you will probably have a smile and probably was going to ask you, may I drive on the way back home today? And the other thing that is very cool, you can play with this thing and it's still fuel sipping. I did about 8 liter per 100 kilometers driving this, but obviously if you just do town and if you, let's say, press the gas a lot, it's gonna go high. But if you drive it, let's say normal driving, time to time, it's still very fuel efficient. So I think Honda just nailed it with this car. When you start driving the Elantra N TCR, well, first thing first, N and N TCR, once you're sitting in the car and driving it, it doesn't make a change at all that it's a TCR. So it's an N. We'll start from that point. And if you compare it to the Type R, which is the whole point of this video, is to understand how they've built the cars. And once you're driving the Elantra, you realize that it's an Elantra with few mechanical change. For example, independent suspensions in the rear, according to the different version of the Elantra. Of course, you've got better suspension in front and obviously bigger engine. But otherwise, you still have the same constitution, I would say. The width of the car is not different. It's not more grounded. It is, but slightly. It doesn't feel as sporty as the Type R will give you. That's for sure. Otherwise, they've done some very good work. If you press on that magical button right here, the N button, it awakes everything. You've got the same concept in the Type R, but I have to admit, in the Type R, it's much more refined in terms of engineering. Here, yes, the steering is a little bit more stiff. Same with the suspension. It gets more sporty, definitely, but it's not as accomplished as it is with the Type R. And when you're looking for a performance car, especially when you're flirting with $50,000 in your bank account to pay that car, you're looking for something which is slightly more precise. And sadly, the Elantra doesn't give that refinement. It's still fun to drive, don't get me wrong on that, especially if you compare to most of the compact cars. But again, it's not as refined as the Type R. And one of the things, as an example, I was speaking about the mechanical limited slip differential on the Type R. This one has an electronic one. So you can tell right away that the thinking of the engineers while they built the N, they didn't go as far as Honda is going in terms of racing feeling, sport feeling. So you don't feel that. That's the sad thing. It's not a bad vehicle, but you can tell after just a few kilometers that the Elantra, even if it's the TCR, it's not as good as the Type R, which is at its 8th generation. So they had time to build the car, to know where the mistakes they've done before that very generation. This one is the first one. So for what it is, it's a pretty good car, but is it as good as the Type R? Definitely not. There is one thing on which the Elantra beats the Honda, it's in terms of fuel consumption. This one is at 7.8 liter per 100 kilometers, which is not that bad considering the amount of performance you have. So now, who is the winner of that match? Well, you got to be blind not to acknowledge that the Type R is a product that is way more refined, and not refined in terms of driving and comfort. This thing is well made from A to Z. The refinement of the mechanical, the engine, the suspensions, the braking, name it, you can tell they haven't forget anything while they produce these vehicles. There was no compromise from A to Z. While you look at the Elantra, you can tell that's a standard Elantra that have been pumped up a lot. namely by that rear wing, but it looks to me that there's a lot of show but not enough go with that vehicle. They should have more power, more refinement, wider body. They should go a little bit deeper into sportiness, while you can tell by experience of the Honda that they've done all that. This is the very first sedan that Hyundai do with the N mindset. It's a work in progress in my mind. And then you have to consider the price. The difference between the two is not that big. This one is close to $55,000. This one is close to $50,000. It's just $5,000 difference. And you can tell very quickly that this worth $55,000, while this one, it's a little bit more limited. Another thing that is very important, it's the resale value. This, you'll keep selling it as hotcakes, while this one, because the brand, the N name, the N division, it's not well known yet, and the reputation of Hyundai is still building up right now. It's not as bad as most people think, but this car is a work in progress. So for that reason, it's very clear to me that the Type R is still the queen of the segment.